Ability Awakening Energy Bar. The host can obtain energy by killing zombies, and after the energy bar is accumulated, it can help ordinary people awaken their abilities. PS 1. People awaken from their abilities will become your followers and have their character interface. You can view their character interface and share their backpack, but they cannot see your interface. 2. If you die, their abilities will disappear. 3. You can recycle their abilities at any time and give them to others. 4. Followers cannot betray, and attacks are ineffective against the host. After the rebirth of Liu Bei, who had already died in the apocalyptic world, he fell into a long period of stagnation as he looked at the introduction on the system panel. Chapter 1. Alien Ability Awakening System. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Blue Star, Huaxia, 2031. In a dark and dirty alley, a figure lay alone on the ground, covered in dirt and dried blood. There were also obvious scars on his face and body, especially his left leg, which had twisted and deformed, indicating that he had broken a bone. This made him look unbearable, unable to bear to look straight at him, and his chest did not have any ups and downs, as if it had cut off its vitality. But at this moment, a sudden light descended from the sky and fell straight into his body. Then, his chest began to slowly rise and fall, and his tightly closed eyes slowly opened. Where is this? Isn't he already dead? As soon as Liu Bei regained consciousness, this idea came to mind. However, a sharp pain immediately engulfed his entire body, causing him to instantly tense up and sweat profusely. However, he didn't shout out loud, but gritted his teeth and kept groaning. Although the pain was severe, he could still endure it. After all, for the sake of cultivation, the feeling of pain had become commonplace for him. At this time, the stimulation brought by the pain made his mind exceptionally clear, and various images kept flickering in his mind. As the images flashed by, Liu Bei only felt the pain reduced, replaced by a face full of disbelief and shock. The intense pain lasted for about 10 minutes and gradually began to weaken, while Liu Bei also regained consciousness from disbelief. Because he found himself reborn, and it was reborn back 5 years ago. No matter who it is, it will feel unbelievable and unbelievable, even thinking that he is dreaming, but this is true because the pain in his body is still stimulating his nerves, which makes his thinking extremely clear at this moment. And the period of rebirth is also very special, because it is the moment when he almost died and became a new human in this apocalyptic world. This day will never be forgotten in his lifetime, it is too unforgettable. Is it because of self-destruction that the space was shattered and then reborn? No, it's impossible. Although I had already reached level A at the time, I haven't yet reached the power to break space. Liu Bei, who had already accepted his own resurrection, began to ponder why he was reborn, but after thinking for a while, he had no idea at all. At this point, the pain in his body had weakened to the point where he could move. Liu Bei slowly sat up and leaned weakly against the wall. He looked at his twisted and deformed left leg, and a hint of anger and killing intent appeared on his pale face. However, he quickly calmed down. The experiences of the past 5 years had changed him so much. But even if he doesn't want to change, this cruel apocalyptic world will force him to do so. Liu Bei reached out and grabbed the slightly deformed leg, then gritted his teeth and twisted it fiercely. As a result, a sharp pain hit his whole body once again. Although he was mentally prepared, he still broke out in layers of cold sweat. At this point, he has become a new human, because the intense pain at the beginning awakened his ability to enhance his physical fitness. Although this ability is the most common among all abilities, for ordinary people who want to survive in this apocalyptic world, even the most ordinary ability is a life-saving straw. For Liu Bei, who wanted to survive in his past life, he had to constantly become stronger, and only by becoming stronger could he continue to live. Therefore, he worked hard to cultivate and break through the boundaries of life and death, ultimately reaching the peak of this ability. But unfortunately, he encountered a more terrifying existence, and in the end, he could only reluctantly choose to self-destruct to end his life, which he had been desperately trying to survive. Is it because God saw the persistence he had in wanting to live, that he gave himself a chance to be reborn? Buzz. Just as Liu Bei was having some wild thoughts, a flash of white light flashed before his eyes. A screen appeared 20 centimeters in front of him without any warning. The screen was about 22 inches in size, like a computer screen, and there were several prominent fonts at the top of the screen. The alien awakening system. This naturally stunned Liu Bei. He couldn't help but reach out and rub his eyes, thinking that he had hallucinations or eye problems due to pain, but the screen still existed. When he turned his head to look at the other side, the screen would also rotate. At this moment, Liu Bei naturally looked puzzled and filled his head with question marks, but still chose to continue looking at the screen. Host. Liu Bei. Age. 17. Ability. Physical enhancement, F. Mental strength, E. Followers. None above the screen were these simple and easy to understand rows of characters. Liu Bei looked at the row of abilities, and the enhancement of physical fitness was indeed his newly awakened ability, but what was the spiritual power behind it? It may seem like an ability, but when did I have this ability? I definitely didn't have this ability before I was reborn, and I haven't heard of this ability, which means it's only after I was reborn. Spiritual power, spiritual. While pondering, Liu Bei closed his eyes and sank his mind. Soon, he seemed to see silver threads appearing in his mind, about a dozen or so. As he thought, the silver threads began to move up, down, left, and right. This should be the spiritual power, but what is the role of this ability? Liu Bei continued to experiment, and with his thoughts, the silver threads began to swim outward, and Liu Bei's perspective also began to change. He found himself detached from his own body, and he could see himself sitting against the wall with his eyes closed. This feeling was wonderful, as if his soul had come out of his body. And he could feel that he only needed to concentrate a little bit to control this spiritual power, so he continued to experiment. The spiritual power began to drift towards the outside of the alley, and the speed was not slow. The alley was a bit deep, several tens of meters, all the way to a range of about 50 meters. Liu Bei could clearly feel that the spiritual power began to weaken, which means that this spiritual power can now reach a range of about 50 meters. Liu Bei regained his mental strength, opened his eyes, and a surprised expression appeared on his face. This was clearly a reconnaissance ability, and with this ability, as long as he was careful, there would be no danger, and even if there was danger, he could avoid it in advance. And Liu Bei's intuition from his experiences over the past few years told him that this spiritual power should not only have this function, but also other stronger functions. It seems that more research should be conducted in the future. Although he is not sure why he gained this ability after being reborn, he still has some speculations in his mind. It is very likely that it is because after being reborn, the spirit of 2 lifetimes combines, which stimulates the effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2, and thus awakens this ability. Not thinking about this for now, Liu Bei continued to look below the screen. And below is the grid, just like a backpack in an online game, and it is still 10 by 10, which is exactly 100. At this time, there is an item in the first grid that looks like a red envelope. As soon as Liu Bei's gaze falls on it, a box next to it appears with words inside. Novice Gift Pack. Upon opening, you can randomly obtain 3 items. Liu Bei has become more and more like a game. Does it mean that he is not reborn in the original world, but in another mutated world, such as the game world? But soon he dispelled this idea, because everything in his previous memory was normal, and others didn't have this screen. Liu Bei couldn't help but look up at the dimly lit sky, seeming to want to find something, but after looking for a while, he couldn't see anything. Naturally, he couldn't think of anything and had no choice but to give up. Since I can't figure it out, I don't think about it anymore. After all, I have experienced the strange and inexplicable event of rebirth now. It doesn't seem like it's a big deal to see such a screen again in front of me, right? Should it be? Liu Bei took a deep breath and looked at the red envelope style that displayed the beginner's gift package. He only thought about how to open it, and the red envelope flickered with a red light. Then, the red envelope disappeared, and 3 things appeared in the square. After carefully examining it, Liu Bei couldn't help but take a cold breath. Chapter 2. Thunder Ability. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. At this moment, Liu Bei stared blankly at the 3 things on the screen. Premium Healing Pill. After taking it, all injuries can be instantly restored, PS killing zombies or mutated beasts can be randomly obtained, Thunder Element. After use, you can obtain Thunder Ability. Slayer Blade. Quality. Level E, Durability. 100, PS, can be randomly obtained by killing zombies or mutated beasts. These 3 things, except for the corpse-slaying knife, are undoubtedly earth-shattering in ghosts and gods sobbing. Not to mention the top-notch healing pill, it can save lives. Nothing is more important than saving a life. If I had not had this top-notch healing pill before I was reborn, perhaps I wouldn't have died at all. And the second Thunder Element, this is even more severe than the former. In such an apocalyptic world where zombies and zombie beasts are everywhere, ordinary people are like food to them. When encountering them, they can either escape or die. Once they unleash their ability to become new humans, as long as they don't die and work a little harder, living in this world is not a problem at all. This is not the main thing, the most important thing is that it is an elemental ability. There are too many types of abilities that humans can stimulate, but not all abilities can reach the highest level. Except for elemental and individual abilities, more than 95% of abilities have limits. For example, if his physical fitness is enhanced, he can only reach level A, and no matter how hard he cultivates, he will not take any further steps forward. Only elemental abilities and individual abilities can break through the A. level and reach a stronger level. So, this ability is undoubtedly extremely tempting for Liu Bei, who already knows that his future can only reach level A. Without any hesitation, Liu Bei stared fixedly at the Thunder Element, and 2 words came to mind. Absorb. On August 24, 2023 at 1 p.m. Despite strong protests and opposition from other countries, an island country selfishly and decisively discharged nuclear wastewater into the sea. In just 3 years, on April 1, 2026, April Fool's Day, the heavens pressed the "destroy" button, and humans and animals began to mutate crazily in a short period of time. They were bloodthirsty, carnivorous, and inhumane, transforming into soulless walking corpses. Anyone who was scratched or bitten by them would become their own kind. Human beings did not even have any preparation or resistance, and in less than a month, the entire world was plunged into human purgatory. However, it seems that heaven has not completely abandoned humans, so some people have unleashed their potential and awakened their extraordinary abilities, and they have become the new humans of this apocalyptic world, and only they can compete with those walking corpses. Because each human individual is different, they awaken different abilities, including combat and auxiliary abilities. The strength of these abilities varies depending on their own development and understanding. The rarest and most powerful of these abilities are elemental abilities, such as gold, wood, water, fire, earth, wind, rain, ice, thunder, and so on. F, E, D, C, B, A, S, SS, SSS. Only elemental abilities and individual abilities can break through the A. level and reach a stronger level, and those who can reach the S. level can already be called saint-level powerhouses. The SS level is known as the demigod, and before Liu Bei was reborn, only 3 of the entire human race had reached this level. As for the final SSS level, it has not yet been reached by humans. If anyone can reach it, it must be like a true god. All of this is enough to demonstrate the strength and importance of elemental abilities, so for the current Liu Bei, he would not hesitate at all. When he decided to absorb it, the thunder element in his backpack disappeared directly. Immediately after landing, Bei felt his whole body tremble violently, as if he had been struck by lightning, and a force instantly swept through his body. If this was his own ability to awaken, it would not just feel like he was struck by lightning, but would continue to be struck by lightning, because it was transforming his body, but at this time, Liu Bei only absorbed it, so he wouldn't have such a strong feeling. Liu Bei raised his hand, his mind twitching slightly, and he felt a force gathering in his entire hand. At this point, he could not reach the level of external ability because only by reaching level C can he achieve it. He can clearly feel the difference between physical enhancement and lightning-related abilities. Physical enhancement enhances his entire body, and he cannot feel individual strength. However, this lightning-related element allows him to clearly feel a wave of energy, which he can mobilize and use at any time. This feeling is both mysterious and wonderful. When Liu Bei looked at the row of abilities again, there was an additional font for thunder-type abilities, F. Before his rebirth, he only had one mass ability with enhanced physical fitness, but now he has 3 abilities. Although he knows that there are others who have 2 abilities, he has never seen or heard of them all. At this moment, a powerful sense of confidence suddenly rose in Liu Bei's heart. He believed that he could definitely live on in this life. Not only do we need to survive, but we also need to break through a level and become stronger. Next, Liu Bei turned to the top-notch healing pill. His body was now heavily injured, and although he had his left leg attached, it would take at least a few months for him to fully recover. In his previous life, he only spent a lot of time recovering from his injuries, and thus missed out on some things. Since there is this divine medicine now, there is no need to slowly recover from the injury. After choosing to take the top-quality therapeutic pill, Liu Bei immediately felt warm all over, and the wound on his body began to heal at a visible speed. His left leg, which had been slightly painful, no longer felt any pain. In about 3 minutes, Liu Bei's face had turned red, but a sense of weakness still filled his whole body. He slowly stood up from the ground without any discomfort and moved his hands and feet. Liu Bei looked at the screen, thinking about how to turn it off. It was impossible to say that the screen was always in front of him like this, so he felt uncomfortable. Perhaps sensing his thoughts, the screen disappeared out of thin air, and when he thought about how to open it again, the screen reappeared. At this moment, Liu Bei naturally understood. After turning off the screen again, he looked around and headed towards the alley entrance. He wanted to find some food first. Although the top-quality healing pill had repaired his injury, it could not cure his hunger. If he had no awakening ability in his past life, he would have starved to death. Although his physical injuries looked serious, they were not fatal yet. He was expelled from the Sanzhong shelter and beaten like this. He has been starving for almost a week now, which is also why he is still weak despite recovering from his injuries. At this time, Liu Bei was located in the southern district of Qinghai City, which was a residential area surrounded by houses of various sizes. He walked directly out of the alley, and outside was a road. On the road, there were some figures swaying aimlessly, with lifeless eyes and pale faces. Some had a broken hand, some had a broken leg, and some had their chests opened. Various organs inside had already fallen outside, looking terrifying and terrifying. However, these hellish scenes had no effect on Liu Bei at this moment. For him, they were no longer human beings, but another kind of creature. Or rather, in his eyes, these walking corpses were not terrifying, but pitiful. Every time he killed them, he felt like he had saved them, allowing them to be reincarnated, without dragging a tattered body aimlessly around in this world. Observing the surroundings, Liu Bei skillfully entered the nearest building and then quietly climbed up to the 3rd floor. This was a 1-story 4-household layout, and the other 3 households had their doors tightly closed. Only one household closer to the upper floor had its doors open. Without hesitation, Liu Bei entered directly into it. At this time, it was daytime and the room was very bright. It was a 2-bedroom, one living room house, empty, and all the furniture and decorations were ordinary household decorations. The door was gently closed, and Liu Bei did not go directly to the kitchen, but went to the living room. Then, he took out some things from under the TV cabinet, including bread, snacks, and a few boxes of canned goods. In his previous life, he found it layer by layer from below. Along the way, he encountered several zombies. Due to his lack of proficiency in awakening, he almost fell into a state of death. However, in the end, he managed to save himself and kept finding the room on the 3rd floor. There were not only no zombies, but also food, which is why he was so bold to enter directly. If it were an ordinary person, or some low-level individuals with abilities, they would be cautious when searching for materials, afraid of attracting the attention of zombies. Once they do, they are likely to be in danger of being surrounded by zombies. It has only been 3 years since the end of the world, and most of the food is still edible. At this time, Liu Bei began to think about the next path while eating. Chapter 3. A system to help others awaken their abilities. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In 2026, the zombie apocalypse crisis broke out, and I and my parents had good luck. They were not infected at the first time, and then started hiding and fleeing. However, they were just lucky. 1 year later, my father was unfortunately infected by the zombie, and the next year my mother was also infected. I joined the Sanzhong shelter and barely survived. Until a week ago, he was arranged to leave the shelter to search for food, but because all the food in the area had been searched, there were other places where although there was still food, it was not something that an ordinary person like him could go to, unless he didn't want to live anymore. So he only brought a small amount of food back, and as a result, the deputy director of the shelter, Lu Tai, gave him a beating on the grounds that the shelter was not caring for anyone who was useless. His left leg was broken at that time and he was thrown out of the shelter. However, Liu Bei did not die like this. Instead, he awakened his ability to enhance his physique and thus survived. At that time, he was only focused on revenge, so he practiced while recuperating. 1 year later, when he reached the late stage of E-level, he decided to go back for revenge. When he returned, he found out that the Sanzhong shelter had been destroyed 6 months ago due to a wave of corpses, and only a few people survived. The deputy director of the shelter, Lu Tai, who was also in the later stage of the E-level and also had the ability to enhance physical fitness, had also died. Liu Bei felt a bit disappointed in his heart. After all, he wanted to personally send him on the road to seek revenge. But since he was already dead now, what else could he do? Go find Lu Tai who may turn into a zombie. Send him another way. Without much hesitation, at this point, Liu Bei did not choose to join other shelters, but instead chose to embark on the path of the Doomsday Ranger. It was precisely this path that enabled him to enhance his physical fitness and cultivate this mass ability to level A. He was also the only one to cultivate this ability to this level, and the hardships and several life and death crises along the way are self-evident. But when he learned that his ability could no longer be further improved, Liu Bei felt a bit disheartened, so in the end he returned to Qinghai City, wanting to settle down here for the rest of his life. However, a powerful and terrifying Hell Legion suddenly appeared in Qinghai City, and all forces and humans in Qinghai City were unable to escape the fate of death, including Liu Bei. At this moment, thinking of the Hell Legion, Liu Bei couldn't help but tremble all over, and a look of fear appeared in his eyes. They were so powerful that even the A-level army and the strongest forces in Qinghai City at the time couldn't resist them, especially the leader of the Legion, who was already a terrifying presence above the A-level. So now the question is, since we already know that the terrifying and powerful Hell Legion will come to Qinghai City in 5 years, should we choose to leave here and go elsewhere directly? At this moment, the room was extremely quiet, with only the steady breathing of Liu Bei. However, the furrowed brow represented that his heart was not actually calm because he was thinking about the path he would take in this life. In his previous life, he chose to become a Doomsday Ranger, living alone and experiencing countless life and death along the way. Although he eventually passed away, the path he chose was not wrong. But even if I choose to leave Qinghai City like in my previous life and don't come back in 5 years, can I really live well? Since that Hell Legion can appear in Qinghai City, who can guarantee that they will not appear elsewhere? Do you have to keep hiding or running away? Is this the future I want to see in my life? Is this the future you want? Continuously questioning in his heart, a screen appeared in front of Liu Bei, and his eyes were also fixed on those 3 abilities. Then, he looked at the top few words, the awakening system of different abilities. I didn't look carefully before, but now I see an empty light column below the typesetting. When my gaze falls on it, a large string of text also appears next to it. Awakening Energy Bar. Killing zombies or zombie beasts can save energy. When the energy bar is full, it can help ordinary people unleash their potential and awaken their abilities. P.S. 1. People awaken from their abilities will become your followers and have their character interface. You can view their character interface and share their backpack, but they cannot see your interface. 2. If you die, their abilities will disappear. 3. You can recycle their abilities at any time and give them to others. 4. Followers cannot betray, and attacks are ineffective against the host. After reading the information above, Liu Bei's thinking came to a standstill, even to the point of being a bit stunned. At first, he thought that this supernatural awakening system was helping him awaken his abilities, but now he realized that he was wrong, and it was a bit outrageous. It turned out that the function of this system was to help others awaken their abilities. Although there are already many capable people in this apocalyptic world, ordinary people still make up the majority. If they want to survive in this new world, they can only rely on those capable people, and they can only obey those capable people. Their life and death are naturally in their hands. For example, before the awakening ability, Liu Bei had to go to a place full of zombies to find food, even if those capable people in the shelter asked him to do anything. For those with abilities, ordinary people are like slaves or livestock, they can be called and waved around, and casual killing is a common occurrence. But this system can help ordinary people awaken their abilities. If it spreads, it will definitely cause vibration and madness among all humans. Moreover, the most important thing is that they cannot betray, which means they will completely obey themselves and there is no need to worry about them betraying themselves. This is simply too extreme. Time passed by minute by second, and the room remained quiet. However, Liu Bei's breathing had begun to become disorganized and rapid, and his eyes occasionally flickered with light. His previously furrowed eyebrows gradually relaxed, and his gaze changed from indecisiveness to firmness. Liu Bei turned off the screen and took a long breath, calming down some of his excitement. In fact, he had already made up his mind from the very beginning to stay. In the previous life, he only had one ability to enhance his physical fitness, but in this life, he has 3, and one of them is an elemental ability. Therefore, he has enough confidence to break through the A. level of his previous life and reach a higher level. Even if he faces that Hell Legion, he will have the confidence to survive. In addition, now that the true function of this ability awakening system has been discovered, it has also strengthened Liu Bei's determination to stay. He does not want to live in exile and fear for the future. Now not only does he not know how to escape, he also has to wait for their arrival in Qinghai City. The only way to overcome fear is to face it directly. Standing up, Liu Bei looked into the distant sky and had a plan in his heart for the path he would take in this life. Chapter 4. Sanzhong Shelter. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 5. E. Level Zombies. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Liu Bei continued to move forward while killing the zombies he encountered along the way to cultivate. From morning until noon, he found a spot to rest, while eating to replenish his energy and analyzing the other effects of lightning abilities in his mind. After this morning's understanding and cultivation of thunder-type abilities, he has become quite familiar with them. After all, he is not a beginner, but has rich experience. It seems that the main function of thunder-type abilities nowadays is explosive power. If you want to learn more, you can only increase your level first, Liu Bei muttered to himself. Not to mention anything else, let's talk about the powerful role of ability outsourcing. Although he already knows it, because the thunder-type ability is still too weak to meet the requirements of ability outsourcing, at least it will have to wait until it reaches level C. At the beginning, these abilities were like droplets of water, which could only be released when they turned into a stream of water or a large river. The power of these abilities at that time could not be compared to today. As for spiritual power, it seems to be the same. Now, Liu Bei has only discovered the role of reconnaissance. If he wants to learn more, he can only level up first. If he wants to level up as quickly as possible, he must constantly use these abilities. Only by filling a cup of water can he change to another one. Since it is currently impossible to study the other effects of abilities, let's keep using them and first raise the level before proceeding. After thinking about it, Liu Bei rested for a while before continuing on the road. Liu Bei naturally did not choose those streets to walk on. There were too many zombies on the streets, and he was not yet as powerful. He could face dozens or hundreds of zombie attacks alone, and even if he was tired, he would be exhausted to death. So he chose some small paths and alleys, but along the way, he still encountered many zombies, but with the presence of spiritual scouts, he did not encounter any major danger. But in his past life, he lacked spiritual power, and coupled with his newly awakened ability, he took every step extremely carefully, taking a long time to walk a short distance. How could he be so relaxed now? At this moment, he was walking between several abandoned buildings. Since this was an abandoned building, there would naturally be no zombies, so he did not use his spiritual power to scout. Of course, it's not that he doesn't want to use it, but rather that he's been using his mental energy all the time, causing his head to feel a bit swollen and painful. This indicates that his mental energy has been exhausted, and using it again may lead to more serious consequences, so it's necessary to slowly recover now. The surroundings were quiet, without even the chirping of insects and birds. The exterior of those abandoned buildings was already covered with vines, and some of the grass on the ground had grown to over a meter high. Liu Bei could only use a corpse-slaying knife to clear the way. And by now it was already over 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sky was slowly getting dark. The darkness of this apocalyptic world was the most dangerous, even A-level strong people dared not wander around at night. If they were unlucky then, it would be hard to say. Liu Bei also decided to find a place to rest after leaving this abandoned building, but as he walked out of the grassy area to the outskirts, his face changed slightly. There were several zombies at the entrance where he went out. If they were all ordinary zombies, Liu Bei wouldn't feel awkward, but one of them was clearly different from the others. He was nearly 2 meters tall, had a large and round waist, and was holding a steel pipe in his hand. This was an E-level zombie, which Liu Bei could confirm. Ordinary zombies are just walking corpses, and their combat power is also weak. Of course, this is for those with abilities. If an ordinary person encounters an ordinary zombie and confronts it head-on, they will undoubtedly die because those ordinary zombies have no mercy or fear of killing you. They will only do their best, even if their hands and legs are broken, they will bite you with a bite of flesh. And zombies with levels are like ordinary humans with awakening abilities, or it can be said that those ordinary zombies are just walking corpses. These zombies with levels are real zombies, and their strength varies depending on their level. Lower-level zombies only enhance attributes such as speed, strength, and body strength. But higher-level zombies have added a more important attribute, which is intelligence. That's right, as the level of zombies increases, they will gradually acquire intelligence. Of course, it's not human intelligence, but the intelligence of the zombies. They can be called another race, the zombie race. Their goal is only one, which is to feed on humans, or to infect humans and turn all humans into their own kind. Thinking of this, Liu Bei naturally remembered the Hell Legion and their leaders, and his heart still had lingering palpitations. After a brief thought, Liu Bei did not choose to avoid the battle, but chose to walk over directly. Firstly, he had enough confidence that even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. The second is to try how strong the combination of two abilities is. After all, only practice can reveal true knowledge. Just as Liu Bei was about 10 meters away from the 5 zombies, they spotted him and rushed towards him like a hunting dog seeing food. The E-level zombie was at the back. Bang! Facing a zombie that had already pounced in front of him, Liu Bei lifted his foot and kicked him in the chest. He only heard the sound of bones breaking, and the zombie flew 7 or 8 meters away. After hitting the ground, it quickly stood up and pounced at him again, but the movement was clearly not as fast as before. Without stopping, Liu Bei immediately punched another zombie and flew it away. Naturally, he did not use the thunder-type ability. If he did, it would not be as simple as flying out. He just wanted to save some time now. After all, the thunder-type ability is only at level F and does not have much energy. Just as Liu Bei quickly knocked away the few ordinary zombies, the E-level zombie had already rushed towards him. Liu Bei sank his mind and quickly mobilized his lightning power to gather in his right fist, smashing it at the opponent. Dang! The steel pipe in the E-level zombie's hand fell down and landed on Liu Bei's fist. The steel pipe was bent 90 degrees and flew out of the zombie's hand. Without stopping, Liu Bei's other punch hit the belly of the zombie, instantly sinking into a pit. However, the zombie did not feel any pain, so both hands grabbed him directly. Liu Bei quickly turned over and retreated, and as he landed, he used inertia to jump up from the ground. His lightning power transferred to his leg, and a whip leg kicked the zombie's arm with a resounding wind. Click! The zombie's arm was kicked off immediately. The zombie seemed to be angry and roared as it continued to charge towards Liu Bei. However, at this moment, the other ordinary zombies that had not been solved were also surrounded. Before Liu Bei could make a move, the E-level zombie waved and knocked all the zombies away. Taking advantage of this gap, Liu Bei's flowing attacks continuously poured onto the zombie. It was repeatedly defeated by these continuous attacks, but without pain. It not only did not dodge, but its unbroken arm instead crazily hit Liu Bei, naturally avoiding it. If it hit it once, Liu Bei would feel a bit uncomfortable. Even if it didn't die, it would still be seriously injured. The battle lasted for several minutes, and the zombie was already covered in scars. If it were an ordinary person, it would have died several times already. At this time, Liu Bei had sufficient confidence and understanding of the combined effect of the two abilities in his heart. After this continuous experiment, the lightning energy in Liu Bei's body has also been used up, so naturally it will not continue to be consumed. With a single kick, Liu Bei kicked away the E-level zombie that was still frantically rushing towards him. He concentrated all the remaining thunder energy in his body into his right fist, creating a thunderous punch. This punch seems to carry a hint of thunder. Puff! A punch with a piercing sound hit the zombie's temple heavily, followed by the sound of watermelon popping. Puff! The headless zombie fell straight to the ground. Liu Bei looked at the headless zombies on the ground and let out a deep breath. To solve these zombies, he had to either take off their heads or turn them into ashes. Chapter 6. Strange Women. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Although it seems that Liu Bei easily solved this E-level zombie, he is very clear in his heart that it is impossible to solve it without going through a battle if it is only a lightning-type ability or physical enhancement, and it is still below 1 level. Nowadays, Liu Bei possesses 3 abilities, 2 F-level combat abilities combined, and with 5 years of practical experience in his past life, he definitely has E-level strength. Moreover, he still has an E-level corpse-slaying knife that has not been used. Judging from his overall strength today, even the Yuan man is confident that he can fight against this E-level early zombie. After easily dealing with the other ordinary zombies, Liu Bei didn't stop and quickly headed towards the exit, hoping to find a place to live before dark. After leaving the abandoned buildings, there is a large complex of buildings, including high-rise buildings and housing. This is the commercial area of the southern district, where there are a lot of zombies, and the number of zombies with different levels has significantly increased. Correspondingly, the resources are naturally very abundant. I casually found the nearest residential building, and after cleaning up some ordinary zombies and a few F-level zombies, Liu Bei went straight to the top 7 floors. This is a 1-floor, 2-room structure, with one door closed and the other open. After entering it, Liu Bei found 2 zombies, one male and one female, probably residents here. After helping them free themselves, they also easily moved their bodies out. Taking advantage of the incomplete darkness, Liu Bei searched around the houses and found some food in the kitchen, some rice and instant noodles. As for the other food, it had basically decayed. After all, it had been too long, and only a few foods could still be preserved. After finding the food, Liu Bei started cooking. Although there was no electricity left, gas or natural gas could still be used. Water was also available, but it was not very clean and needed to be disinfected first. As for mineral water, it had been left for too long, and although it was not opened, it needed to be heated to drink directly. When it was completely dark, Liu Bei prepared his meal. Fortunately, he found some well-packaged pickled vegetables and the like, otherwise he would have had to eat white rice. After finishing his meal, Liu Bei found a few candles. After lighting them, the room suddenly became much brighter. While resting on the sofa, he also opened the panel of his supernatural awakening system, which he hadn't seen in a day. At first glance, he was stunned. Apart from the corpse-slaying knife, there were actually a few more things. He remembered clearly that he didn't put anything else inside. Energy pill *1. Randomly obtained after killing all types of zombies and zombie beasts. After taking it, it can increase a certain amount of energy. After killing zombies or mutated beasts, followers will also drop the following items, which will directly enter the host's backpack and can only be allocated and used by the host. Revival pill *3. Randomly obtained after killing zombies or zombie beasts, can restore a certain amount of strength after taking it. Canned beef *3. Randomly obtained after killing zombies or zombie beasts. Ordinary healing pill *1. Randomly obtained after killing zombies or mutated beasts, can restore some of the damage after taking it. After reading the introduction of a few things, Liu Bei was still a bit confused, but at least he learned from his past experiences. This time, he quickly woke up, couldn't help but take a deep breath, and then his eyes turned to the energy pill. Immediately after, a white pill the size of a thumb appeared in his hand. Liu Bei smelled it, but there was no smell. After hesitating for a few seconds, he threw it into his mouth. The pill disappeared directly from his mouth, not disappearing, but transformed into an invisible energy that entered his body. However, it was strange that Liu Bei didn't feel any stronger, but he immediately understood that he possessed 3 abilities, and that energy was naturally divided equally among them. As a result, he couldn't feel the feeling of strength anymore. This made Liu Bei, who was originally a bit excited, feel a bit overwhelmed. However, he quickly changed his mood. Since killing those zombies can still drop these good things, even food, then he is not tired anymore. At this moment, Liu Bei's eyes were shining brightly, and his spirit, which had not yet fully recovered, seemed to have recovered. He was originally thinking of taking a break, but now he's taking a break. Even if the body wants to rest, his mind will never let him rest. At this moment, Liu Bei felt a bit regretful. He had known that he would release more zombies during the day. His previous idea was to avoid fighting as much as possible. Firstly, his own strength was not strong enough, so there was no need to show off his strength. Secondly, his research on mind-type abilities and mental power only requires small-scale battles. Although he has temporarily studied both abilities to a certain stage and only needs to upgrade, he only plans to develop them steadily without taking risks in the future. But now that he has learned about the system's ability to randomly kill and drop items, Liu Bei can't wait any longer. Let's go to Taenyang's stable development. So he didn't even blow out the candle, so he opened the door and went out. After all, no one could rest in peace after learning about this powerful and rebellious effect. Of course, Liu Bei was not so foolish as to run directly onto the street filled with zombies outside. Instead, he chose to clean up layer by layer from this building. The sky was as black as ink, and there was no light in the whole world. Only the pale moonlight shone on the earth, appearing particularly desolate and desolate. The occasional roar of zombies in the desolate city added a touch of horror. At this moment, there was some movement in an abandoned building. It was not far from the abandoned building that Liu Bei had just passed by, only a few buildings away. A figure was slowly walking up the building, its movements were light and slow, like a cat in the dark. After a period of time, it climbed to the top floor. At this moment, the pale moonlight happened to shine on its body. It had a pair of slightly worn-out sneakers on its feet, a pair of blue jeans on its lower body, and a black short-sleeved T-shirt on its upper body. Its waist-length black hair was scattered, and it lifted its head to look at the moonlight in the sky, revealing a blurry and dirty face. This is a human, or a woman who cannot tell her age, because the face of a zombie does not have despair or other complex emotions, and there are no tears flowing out of her eyes. The weather at night is naturally cold. She lowered her head, then crouched down to embrace her body trembling slightly, and then the sound of heart-wrenching crying sounded, like a cuckoo crying for blood. Perhaps tired from crying, she slowly stood up and walked towards the side of the abandoned building. There was no emotion in her eyes, and her face was full of silence. She stood on the edge of the tall building, ready to jump down to end her tragic and powerless life. Her gaze inadvertently swept over a residential building in a nearby commercial district. Then, she looked back, and a faint glow reflected in her eyes. Seemingly afraid that she might have misread, she reached out and rubbed her eyes. Although the light was faint, it appeared particularly bright and dazzling in this terrifying dark world, shining like a lighthouse into her already dormant heart, and her steady heartbeat began to beat violently. Without much hesitation, she left the side of the tall building once again full of hope, and quickly ran towards the lower floor. Soon, she got off the abandoned building and headed towards the place where she had just seen the light. After passing through the bushes, she arrived at the exit of the abandoned building, where several zombies lay on the ground, especially one of the tall zombies with no head left. She just took a quick look and confirmed that there was no danger before continuing to move outward. She didn't encounter any danger when she came outside because all the zombies along the way had been disposed of. She saw many zombie bodies on the ground and continued walking for a while before arriving at a house downstairs, where the lighthouse was located. But at this moment, a figure suddenly walked out of the entrance of the housing building, which slowed her heart for an instant. However, she still suppressed the idea of turning around and running away, and looked straight at the other person under the moonlight. On his feet were a pair of sports shoes, on his lower body was a pair of gray casual pants, and on his upper body was a short-sleeved black jacket. With a sharp face, his eyes were also staring straight at her, sharp and cold. Seeing this gaze, although it was certain that the other person was not a zombie but a human, the heart that had just been occupied by hope suddenly became cold, and the thought returned to my mind. What if the other person was like those human-faced beast-heart-capable individuals in the shelter? Didn't I just leave the tiger's den and enter the wolf's den again? This made her hesitant to move forward for a moment, and she even had the urge to turn around and run immediately. Liu Bei had just finished freeing the entire building of zombies and was preparing to go to the nearby building to continue. However, as soon as he left the door, he saw a figure standing not far away staring at him, which naturally startled him. Even his heart beat faster, and his nerves immediately became tense. However, as the other person was disheveled, he couldn't see clearly. At first glance, he naturally thought it was a zombie, but then he thought it might be another person with abilities. After all, some abilities may also come out at night. As for whether it was an ordinary person, he didn't think about it directly. However, the unknown creature remained motionless. If it were a zombie, it would probably pounce, right? If it were a capable person, wouldn't it be so weird? At this moment, Liu Bei couldn't help but feel a bit confused. But at this moment, some zombies around had slowly walked towards this side. When they came here, Liu Bei naturally solved some zombies before opening up a path, but the ones that were further away were still unresolved. Now those zombies, smelling the smell of fresh meat, are all coming towards us, and the unknown figure is also beginning to move towards the landing White Knight. Chapter 7. Su Linglong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Su Linglong had already fallen into a dilemma at this point. She regretted something and impulsively ran over, but now it was too late. She had originally planned to leave here first, and wait until the situation arose. However, she found that the surrounding zombies had gradually begun to surround her, and she could no longer leave. Taking a deep breath, Su Linglong decided to take a gamble. If the other party were like those crazy incapable individuals in the shelter, she would not hesitate to choose what she had wanted to do on the abandoned building before, so she walked towards the landing White Knight. But at this moment, Liu Bei became highly nervous. How could the surrounding zombies come and it start moving? Is it a high-level zombie? Because only high-level zombies can mobilize some ordinary zombies, such as the corpse tide, which is caused by high-level zombies driving low-level or ordinary zombies, and many shelters are breached as a result. Do you have such bad luck on your own? Encountering such a powerful zombie so quickly. It seems that he is still too aggressive, thinking with some self-blame. Liu Bei slowly retreated, but the figure clearly accelerated its speed and came towards him. Liu Bei had no choice but to bow slightly and prepare for a deadly battle with a serious expression on his face. Since he had already been targeted, retreating was of no use. Wait a moment. Just as the figure was still a few meters away from Liu Bei and he was about to take action, a slightly weak female voice rang out. As he got closer, Liu Bei, who had undergone physical enhancement, could naturally see her clearly. Although her face was dirty, her eyes were agile and moving. It's human. Liu Bei first had some doubts and then turned to say. Go upstairs first. At this moment, the surrounding zombies had also gathered around, so it was not the place to speak. When Su Linglong came in, Liu Bei quickly closed the door and then found something nearby to block it. The two of them followed the stairs directly to the room where Liu Bei had stayed before. Su Linglong saw the burning candles at first glance. It was this faint light that she had seen on the unfinished roof before. For her, who was already in a state of despair at the time, it was the beacon that once again illuminated her hope for survival. However, she was extremely nervous now, and her hands in front of her unconsciously tightened. Her heart also quickened because she was afraid that this was a wolf's den. Liu Bei sat directly on the sofa, his eyes fixed on this somewhat eerie woman, and he spoke calmly. Are you a capable person? How could you be here? No, I'm not a capable person. Su Linglong shook his head weakly when he heard the other person's question. Liu Bei was immediately shocked. Ordinary people. How could an ordinary person appear on the streets of a commercial district filled with zombies at night? Is she here to seek death? Well, Liu Bei probably guessed it right. She really wanted to commit suicide. Are you an ordinary person? How could you be here? Liu Bei was very curious, but still didn't believe it and asked again. Su Linglong nodded and then fell silent, as if thinking of something painful. His face in the candlelight was complex. Liu Bei didn't speak, just stared at her tightly, with a hint of caution in his eyes. In this apocalyptic world, no one can believe it casually, even his own relatives and friends, let alone this sudden stranger. Even if she is a woman, even if she is a little child, she cannot be taken lightly, otherwise he doesn't even know how to die. I escaped from the New Day shelter. 3 years ago, the end of the world suddenly broke out, and my mother turned into a zombie. My father took me to hide, and we joined the New Day shelter 6 months later. At first, the shelter was peaceful, and although some people awakened their abilities, they did not rely on their abilities to do anything wrong. But after more than a year, some capable people began to change. They forcibly took some girls. Su Linglong's eyes were filled with thick fear and some anger. Upon hearing this, Liu Bei naturally understood and felt a bit speechless. Evil and lust were the top priority, and Zhao Tai from the Sanzhong shelter was also of the same kind. As for the Shinri shelter, he also knew that it was not far from this commercial district, which is why an ordinary girl like her could come here safely. Of course, luck accounted for 99% of it. Until a month ago, those capable people targeted me. They thought my father would be there to protect me, but I didn't expect my father to persuade me to follow them. I didn't agree, but he hit me and locked me up at home, wanting to give me to those animals. So I lit up the house and escaped while the situation was chaotic. Su Linglong's voice choked up, his body trembled slightly, and tears flickered in his eyes. I managed to escape all the way to that abandoned building. I was about to jump off the building, but when I saw the light here, Speaking of which, Su Linglong did not continue, and Liu Bei also knew that she was not lying. She admired this strong and courageous girl very much in her heart, and her father's actions were already understandable. In such an apocalyptic world, human hearts are the most terrifying. After a moment of silence, only after Su Linglong had recovered from his sadness and fear did Liu Bei ask. What's your name? How old are you? Su Linglong, the spirit of spiritual energy, the exquisite and transparent Long. He is 17 years old, Su Linglong said softly without hesitation. My name is Liu Bei, which literally means day and night. I am the same age as you, Liu Bei also introduced himself. You go wash yourself first, and as for the clothes, you can look for them yourself in the room. There should be clothes that women wear, and I'll get you something to eat. After Liu Bei finished speaking, he went straight to the kitchen. Su Linglong breathed a light sigh of relief and looked brightly at the back of Liu Bei before going to the room to look for clothes. Half an hour later, Su Linglong came out of the bathroom and changed into clothes that fit her well. It was obvious that it belonged to the hostess of the house, and her waist-length hair, which was still slightly damp, was also loose. After washing her dirty face clean, she revealed an extremely beautiful face, giving a very pure aura. However, her face was slightly pale, probably due to lack of rest and physical weakness. Come and have dinner. Liu Bei saw her at this moment, and couldn't help but take a few more glances. After all, no one can resist seeing beautiful people or things. Thank you, Su Linglong said with a slight bow, her head also slightly lowered. After all, being stared at by people all the time naturally made her feel shy. However, she did not see the disgusting expression in the eyes of those capable people from his eyes. She simply appreciated the beautiful scenery, so she did not feel any aversion. Su Linglong sat down at the dining table, looking at the white rice, canned beef, and a plate of pickled vegetables on the table. Her throat couldn't help but swallow it, and her stomach began to rumble. For this post-apocalyptic world, this is undoubtedly very abundant. Even in the shelter, they only have special occasions to eat meat, usually just rice and noodles paired with pickled vegetables. Hurry up, I've already eaten it, Liu Bei said softly as she sat on the sofa next to her. Su Linglong nodded and picked up his rice bowl to start eating. Perhaps he had been hungry for a long time and had not eaten much meat, so he seemed to be a bit wolfed. Liu Bei didn't speak, just looked at her quietly, not knowing what was on her mind. Only the sound of swallowing food kept ringing in the hall. After eating for a while, Su Linglong's movements began to slow down, and an embarrassed expression appeared on his face. His eating appearance seemed a bit ugly, and Liu Bei kept looking at her. Although he didn't mean anything else, she still felt a bit strange. Liu Bai, how could you be here? Are you a capable person? Su Linglong asked in a voice while eating, which could be seen as diverting that strange feeling. Liu Bei nodded and then roughly explained his own situation. One of them was thrown out of the shelter, the other voluntarily escaped, and they happened to meet here, which can be considered a kind of fate. After listening to Liu Bei's calm narration, Su Linglong saw a look of empathy in his eyes. This boy, who was the same age as him, had his leg broken and was thrown out of the shelter. Although he was lucky enough to awaken his ability and survive, what if he didn't have the ability to awaken? She didn't dare to continue thinking. And this conversation has also elevated the relationship between the two. After all, after both parties understand each other, they will relax their vigilance and not appear so unfamiliar. Su Linglong finished his meal and tidied up the dishes himself. Liu Bei remained motionless until she finished tidying up before saying anything. You can go rest first. You can sleep in either of those 2 rooms. Su Linglong did not refuse either. Although she had only escaped for a few days, she did not sleep well for a day, which kept her mental state in a low state. Thank you. Su Linglong casually found a room, whispered thank you again, and then closed the door. Of course, the door was locked. After all, she had only just met for a short time, and no matter how foolish she was not at all unguarded. Chapter 8. The Confused and Helpless Su Linglong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Liu Bei naturally wouldn't mind Su Linglong's actions, but instead gave some approval. Being cautious is a good thing. However, she still didn't know what to say when she came here directly. To be honest, she was a bit foolish and impulsive. Fortunately, she met herself, and if she met someone else, she might have to experience the punishment of impulsiveness. Liu Bei opened the panel of the supernatural awakening system and looked directly at the backpack, which had some additional items besides the previous ones. 5 canned pork, 7 canned beef, and 3 canned fruit. Apart from the previous revitalization pill and ordinary healing pill, this time we cleaned up a building. Although they were all ordinary zombies, there were no energy pills dropped. Basically, they were all food. Although the food was also very good, Liu Bei naturally still wanted energy pills, as they could be directly used to enhance his own strength. Therefore, it is necessary to do more good. However, upon a moment's reflection, Liu Bei can understand that this energy pill has such a powerful effect that it should be considered a rare item. It is definitely not easy to drop it, and it may even require killing zombies with a certain level to drop it. Without too much hesitation, Liu Bei looked at the awakening energy bar, which was already 1.3 lit. Is it so slow? Liu Bei furrowed his brow slightly. After all, he had dealt with an E-level zombie today and cleaned up an ordinary zombie in a building. However, when he looked at the tail decoration behind the energy bar, his brow instantly relaxed and he saw *1 behind the tail decoration. Do you want to give it a try? Liu Bei glanced at the room where Su Linglong was sleeping, then narrowed his eyes slightly. Fortunately, his expression was very normal, and those who didn't know thought he had some evil thoughts. Sitting alone on the sofa, thinking for a while, Liu Bei got up and went to another room, closed the door and went to sleep. However, at this moment, Su Linglong was still lying in bed and hadn't fallen asleep. It wasn't that she didn't want to sleep, but she was a bit afraid to sleep. After all, This was her first time in such an environment, and there was also an unfamiliar man outside. How could she be so confident and bold as to fall asleep directly? It was too heartless. However, in her heart, she could still see that Liu Bei should be a good person. The first time we met, we could offer her canned beef, which is the most valuable and scarce food in the apocalyptic world. If it were someone else, it would be impossible. If we didn't treat her as food, we would already have good luck. Then there is still some fear in the bottom of my heart, afraid that I will encounter those insane and capable individuals due to my reckless and impulsive decisions, and my fate and consequences are simply foreseeable. When Su Linglong heard the other room close, his mind was still full of thoughts, and finally he fell asleep unconsciously in a hazy state. The next day, the sunlight outside the window shone on Su Linglong's fair and beautiful cheeks, which made her slowly open her eyes. First, she was stunned for a few seconds, and then yesterday's memories flooded into her mind. This made her still somewhat drowsy mind suddenly clear up, and she immediately sat up from bed. When she saw that everything around her was normal, she breathed a sigh of relief. Looking at the electronic clock on the bedside table, it was already over 9 o'clock. This was the most comfortable and secure sleep she had ever had since escaping from the shelter, and she clearly felt that her mental state had improved a lot. After quickly getting up and getting dressed, she opened the door and walked out of the room. There was no one in the living room. She glanced at another open room, but there was no one. Arriving at the dining table, there was a box of canned pork and a box of canned fruit, along with a piece of paper. I'm going to clean up the zombies downstairs, and the food is in the pot. As Su Linglong looked at this string of words, his heart suddenly became very complex, with both emotions and fears. The emotion was that Liu Bei was too kind to her, while the fear was that she was just an ordinary person and couldn't help him anything. So, what qualifications did he have to stay here? In such an apocalyptic world, the ordinary people in the shelter are labor. Whether it's laundry, cooking, or other miscellaneous tasks, they have to do something to have food to eat. Not doing anything will not only teach you a lesson, but even your peers who are also ordinary people will despise you. Su Linglong, who has been staying in the shelter, naturally knows very well the survival rules of this world today. After Su Linglong finished washing up, he didn't choose to eat. Instead, he started tidying up the room, sweeping and mopping, and worked for over an hour before barely finishing. And Su Linglong had just finished eating halfway when the room door was opened. It was only when he saw that it was Liu Bei that he breathed a sigh of relief. As soon as Liu Bei entered the room, she found it completely different from yesterday. It was clean and tidy, looking very comfortable. There was also a faint fragrance of gardenia in the air, and it was unclear whether it was Su Linglong who sprayed the freshener or the scent from her own body. Why don't you finish your meal and then do it? You're not in a hurry. Liu Bei naturally knew her thoughts. After all, he had also stayed in a shelter. He not only had to do miscellaneous tasks, but also had to be driven out to search for food. Doing miscellaneous tasks was just tiring, but ordinary people who went out to search for food were looking for death. Su Linglong only showed a gentle and bright smile, without speaking. Liu Bei sat on the sofa, her eyes fixed straight ahead. Su Linglong felt a bit strange, but she didn't ask. She just kept looking at the landing bay. Last night, it was too dark and the candlelight wasn't too bright, so she didn't carefully see the other person's appearance. But now it's clear to see. This is a handsome boy with distinct facial features and a very durable type, especially those deep black hole-like eyes, which reveal a mature sense of worldly experience. Just by looking at her face, she wouldn't be a bad person, right? Su Linglong unconsciously thought to herself. Of course, she didn't judge based on the appearance association's thoughts. They are all in such a complex and zombie-filled apocalyptic world now, so they are all forced to mature early, and have some experience in observing words, expressions, and identifying people. Liu Bei naturally didn't feel Su Linglong's gaze. At this moment, he was checking the panel of the ability awakening system. He went out early this morning to deal with the zombies downstairs and the neighboring building, and also encountered several F-level zombies. The harvest was naturally quite rich. In addition to a large amount of food, the energy pill also obtained 3, and the revitalization pill and the normal healing pill also obtained 2 more. This time, he specifically focused on the panel and determined that the probability of the energy pill dropping would be much higher after killing zombies with levels. Finally, the awakening energy pill was reached, and the second one was also fully accumulated, which means he can now help activate the abilities of the 2 people. But each person can only activate it once, the second time is invalid. Just as Lu Bai finished inspecting the panel at night, Su Linglong had already finished his meal and had already sat on the sofa next to him after tidying up. Do you have any plans in the future? Lu Bai turned to look at Su Linglong beside her and asked. Although she already knew she was very beautiful last night, it may be because she had a good sleep. At this time, her face was rosy and beautiful, emitting a youthful and beautiful aura. No wonder she was targeted by those capable people, because even he was a bit tempted. Although Lu Bai's words seemed like a casual question, Su Linglong's body suddenly became tense, his face turned pale, and he even felt a bit at a loss because she really didn't know what to do next. She only felt that the future was dark. Did he ask this to drive him away? At this moment, her heart was extremely uneasy, and her heart was constantly beating faster. If he really wanted to drive herself away, what should she do? Where should we go again? She only felt a sense of confusion in her mind now. Lu Bai didn't speak either, just looked at her. Of course, he knew her inner thoughts, but he needed her to speak them out on her own. I don't know either. Su Linglong shook her head in confusion, but soon her face kept changing, and her hands on her knees slowly clenched, as if she was making some significant decision in life. Do you have any other paths to choose from now? Go back. I would rather die outside than go back. Get out of here. What will be waiting for oneself to leave here? Dead. Or a more tragic ending than death. Thinking of this, Su Linglong suddenly relaxed a bit. Yes, she had no choice anymore. Can I ask Lu, do you have any plans for Lu Bai next? Su Linglong raised his head and looked directly at Lu Bai, asking softly. Chapter 9. Wind System Capability. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. De Co Lois Ara Trong Quatrin Lay Text. Chapter 10. First Follower. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The girl on the bed let out a lazy voice, then slowly opened her eyes, looked around at the familiar environment, and then supported herself to sit up. Su Linglong shook his head, and his mind also recalled what had happened before. It seemed that he had awakened his abilities. She was a bit uncertain because she didn't feel any change in her body. Just as she was about to get out of bed, a bright light suddenly flashed in front of her, and then a panel appeared not far from her eyes. This naturally startled Su Linglong, and her eyes had already fallen on it. Host. Lu Bai follower. Su Linglong gender. Female age. 17 ability. Wind system, F. Following that, there were some empty squares below. Seeing the scene above, Su Linglong's mind was naturally filled with question marks. Host. What is it? Followers. What is it again? As for the wind type displayed in the ability, he can still barely understand, which means that he has awakened a wind type ability. With a mind full of questions, she got up and walked out of the room. At a glance, she saw Lu Bai sitting on the sofa, as if waiting for her. Do you feel any abnormality in your body? Lu Bai turned to look at her and asked proactively, with a concern in his expression. I don't know if it was her own illusion. At the moment she saw Lu Bai, she clearly felt that there was something extra between herself and him, as if there was a line connecting them together. Looking into his eyes, she developed a sense of fear and reluctance to look directly at him. Su Linglong still avoided Liu Bei's gaze, didn't say a word, walked over to him and sat down. Then, just as something about the panel came to mind, it appeared in front of her out of thin air. Seeing the panel that appeared, Liu Bei did not feel strange because he had already known that as long as he became his follower, there would be a panel. He could see their panel and control the items in his backpack, but they could not see him. This is the permission of the host. Don't think too much, this is one of my abilities that can help others awaken, said Liu Bei calmly. He naturally wouldn't say what system caused it, and she might not believe it even if she said it. Besides, it's better not to say anything about the system, even if the relationship is intimate. Speaking it out won't benefit them much. On the contrary, if other outsiders know about it, it will definitely cause a huge uproar and shock. Su Linglong is not a fool. She didn't think carefully before, and now she roughly understands the meaning of the host and followers. However, it doesn't seem to matter to her anymore because she has already decided to follow Liu Bei, so their relationship doesn't matter much. On the contrary, she didn't reject such a relationship at all in her heart, and even had a faint impulse to go further, because she still vividly remembered the feeling of her broad and warm chest tightly embracing her. Your ability to awaken is the wind system. First, close your eyes, then contract your consciousness, calm your mind, and see if you can sense the flow of energy. Liu Bei changed the topic. Su Linglong obediently closed his eyes, and the whole room fell into silence. Only the steady breathing of the two continued to sound, and Su Linglong couldn't directly calm down because her mind was now filled with the appearance of Liu Bei. It lasted for almost half an hour before she finally temporarily drove Liu Bei out of her mind. At the moment when her mind was calm, she felt strands of white silk swimming around her body, which should be the energy of her wind power. I feel it, Su Linglong opened his eyes and said, his expression also slightly excited. He turned to look straight at Liu Bei, who was very close to him, with some other colors in his eyes besides awe. At this moment, everything seemed like a dream to her, because she never expected to become a capable person. She had only a dead end when she escaped from the shelter, and her heart was filled with despair. However, at the last moment, she was attracted by the dark candlelight and thus met the mysterious man Liu Bei. She is not sure if he is a good person, but she can definitely not be a bad person. In the situation where there is no way to go, she can only choose to follow him. However, she did not expect him to help her awaken and become a capable person. This did not save her life, but gave her a new life. In Su Linglong's heart at this moment, Liu Bei was as tall and majestic as a deity. If I hadn't escaped from the shelter, if I had chosen to end my life in another place, or if I saw the candlelight but chose to ignore it, would I still be able to meet him? But everything that happened at this moment was telling her, which also made her more certain in her heart that the meeting between her and him was already arranged by heaven. I originally wanted to take you out to test your abilities, but it's already late now. Let's talk about it tomorrow. Liu Bei could naturally see what other colors represented in Su Linglong's eyes, and he didn't refuse. Instead, he chose to go with the flow and let it go. In his past life, he was a Doomsday ranger who had always been alone. It was not that he had a pure heart and few desires. Like a strong person of his level at the time, no matter what kind of ordinary woman she was, she would actively embrace her, even some low-level female talents. However, he did not like to do those things with women without emotional foundation, which would only make him feel like he was no different from a beast. Another thing is that he has been walking towards the end of the world, facing great danger. Naturally, he would not bring a woman with him. Later, when he found out that his physical enhancement ability could no longer break through, he chose to return to Qinghai City and prepare to find a woman to live the rest of his life. However, this ordinary wish was not fulfilled. Now that he has been reborn and chosen a path completely different from his previous life, he naturally won't refuse to meet a suitable and likable woman. Well, I'll go cook first. Su Linglong nodded and reluctantly withdrew his respectful and colorful gaze. Let me come with you, Liu Bei said as he distributed some food into her backpack and told her how to take it out. Su Linglong couldn't help but marvel at Liu Bei's magical ability once again. Ah! Do we have to do so much? We can't finish it either, can we? Su Linglong quickly said as he watched Liu Bei take out several cans. After all, these foods are very precious in this apocalyptic world, more precious than anything else, even humans. For example, Su Linglong's father, in order to give her to those who are capable, just wanted to receive their extra care. Could he also give more food? This is to celebrate your awakening of abilities. Let's not do it again. Liu Bei naturally knew her thoughts and said with a smile. The meal was quickly prepared, and this time the dishes were very rich, including pork, beef, fish, and a portion of chicken. Although Liu Bei said it was to celebrate her awakening of abilities, her appearance was still somewhat heartbreaking. Don't worry, it's actually quite easy for me to get these foods, Liu Bei said as she reached out and rubbed her head. Su Linglong remained silent, and a blush immediately rose on her delicate cheeks. She did not refuse or resent Liu Bei's actions, but instead felt a sweet sensation in her heart. Let's eat, Liu Bei said as he sat down at the dining table. During the meal, neither of them spoke, while Liu Bei was thinking about something. Su Linglong's eyes were occasionally fixed on him, a bit complicated. Although she had only known him for a little over a day, she entrusted her entire life to him. Whether she decided to follow him or he helped her awaken her abilities, it meant that they were bound together for the rest of their lives. After finishing their meal amidst the chaotic thoughts of the two, Su Linglong tidied up the dishes while Liu Bei wiped the table. Both of them had a great understanding, so how this scene looks, it feels like a young couple living their lives. After tidying up everything, it was already completely dark outside, and the faint candles inside the room were shining brightly. Liu Bei and Su Linglong both sat on the sofa, very close to each other, with only one body. Liu Bei seemed to be able to smell the faint fragrance of gardenia emanating from each other, which made him unable to resist taking a few more sniffs. This naturally made Su Linglong's cheeks blush again, but she did not leave. Instead, she lowered her head slightly, and an ambiguous atmosphere suddenly rose in the quiet hall.